Lord, take my hand, bring me home through the night, through the dark, through the storm, to the light. I have been to the mount, I have seen the promised land. Precious Lord, take my hand. Precious Lord, take my hand, bring thy child home at last, where the strife and the pain all are past. I have dreamed a great dream, that thy love shall rule the land. Precious Lord, take my hand. Precious Lord, take my hand. Take thy child unto thee, with thy dream of a world that is free. For that day when all flesh joins the glory thou hast planned. Precious Lord, take my hand. Take my hand.
Welcome and good evening. In the quiet spaces of my mind, a thought lies still, but ready to spring. Pause with us here a while. Put your ear to the wall of your heart. Listen to the whisper of knowing. Love will touch you if you are very still. We invite all of you to join us to sit for several moments of silent reflection.
to creation, to spirit, life force, universe, to the mystery that binds us one to another. We cry out, save us from ourselves. Save us from the vengeance in our hearts and the acid in our souls. Save us from our desire to hurt as we have been hurt, to punish as we have been punished, to terrorize as we have been terrorized. Give us the strength it takes to listen rather than to judge, to trust rather than to fear, to try again and again to make peace, even when peace eludes us. Help us to be our best selves. We ask for the vision to be builders of the human community rather than its destroyers. We ask for the humility as a people to understand the fears and the hopes of other peoples. We ask for the love it takes to bequeath to the children of the world to come more than the failures of our own making. We ask for the heart it takes to care for all the peoples of Ukraine, of Russia, of Turkey, of Afghanistan, of places we don't even know or don't even think about, as well as ourselves. Give us the depth of soul to constrain our might, to resist the temptations of power, to refuse to attack the attackable, to understand that vengeance begets violence, and to bring peace, not war, wherever we go. Grant that we may be merciful and patient and gracious and trusting, that we may see in each person a friend and a member of the one human family.
It helps me to gather my thoughts and to be fully here. I take some time in prayer before I speak. So I just invite you to either pray with me in your hearts or just lend your hearts to me as we take a little moment to focus ourselves in here, gather in. Beloved God, Creator, Father, Mother, you have many names, and many of us come to you in different ways or not at all. But we come here tonight because the world feels broken. Come here tonight because we feel heartsick. Come here tonight because we see flashes of courage that just stir us. And we yearn to help, and we yearn to translate our caring into something that will help create peace, help save someone's life. So thank you. Thank you for this day, for all who get to go to sleep after spending this day awake, for all who get to have some moment with another human being that seems to affirm that this is all worthwhile. Thank you for giving us this space and this time where we can come together relaxedly. Thank you for bringing us to life at a time when actually atrocities like these are not unknown to us. And thank you. Thank you for giving us a heart that can break because we care. The tears that can flow because we hope. So I just pray, be with us now and soften our hearts and open our minds, take the words spoken and make them the words that each one of us needs to hear for where we are right now in this place. Each of us wanting to hear, needing to hear something a little different from each other. The many names that we go by that we give you, and just in the name of life itself. Amen. So, of course, peace and love is, in many ways our bread and butter. I mean, it is the gospel, it is the word, it is what a lot of us, even those of us, this particular congregation is incredibly diverse theologically, from devout traditional believers to absolute non-believers, but we all come together because we do have a sense that together we can open our hearts to make whatever small corner of creation that we touch a kinder place, a more peaceful place, a more compassionate place. And so we have very cute words, sculptures that are in the back. They love and they say peace. And sometimes we bring them out, and it's a really sweet visual to go along with what we're doing. But I thought, as I saw them today, that it wasn't quite right. It's too easy sometimes to reduce these very lofty ideals to threadbare refrigerator magnet slogans. The reality is, as I said to the congregation a couple weeks ago, who am I to talk about peace? I live here, literally, right next door. I live in this amazing square, tiny, 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 smaller than a postage stamp, example of this amazing creation, of the sky, of this sky and this land, of this sea. What do I know? What do I know about peace? Because I just live in peace. I just live in peace. It's kind of like the water to the fish. And how do I get up here and talk about peace, talk about how we need to have peace, and that God will bring peace? And what can we do for peace? I've never heard a gun fired in anger. I've never had to make a split-second decision. Do I kill or do I be killed? And so sometimes for me, and I don't think I'm alone, I think other pastors might stumble upon this sometimes. For me, I sometimes come up feeling a little like, what do I say? What do I say when there's such enormous suffering? It's very easy, again, to think of the Bible, if any, for those of you who have read any part of it, it's very easy to think of it as, something really dusty and kind of had its day in the sun. What's amazing about it is how you read these stories, and chapter after chapter, it's just a repeat after a repeat of nations rising and oppressing the most vulnerable people and ignoring the plight of the poor, and a few people accumulating great wealth and power, and people turning to find their security in material things, as if a wad of money soaked in a flood is going to help you more than a friend's hand or a stranger's boat who takes you up and takes you to safety. Time and again, story after story, nations rise and nations fall. And they are always falling because of their indifference. They're always falling because of their selfishness. They're always falling because of their lack of compassion. They're always falling because they forget. They forget that every human being is as important as another human being. And so I find myself in some ways scratching my head, because these 22 conflicts, some of which I've heard, obviously I looked that up on Google, and obviously some of them I know and you know, but I would be surprised, maybe some of you have better geopolitical education than I do. Some of them I was like, where is that? Who are those people? I didn't even know. Same story, and it's the story in this book over and over again, and it's the story of my life growing up over and over again. And one could think, well, that's kind of despairing. Here we are again. It's possible to think that, and at times I do. And then something happens, some little glimmer. Something when you think that the world itself is just too lost, when you think that people have just sunk as low as they can go, there's a moment. There's a moment. You see a moment. You hear about a moment. You experience the moment if you're in that hard situation. There's a moment, and that moment, like a flash of lightning, brings light. This stunning light of human compassion, this stunning light of mercy, this stunning light when someone is willing to step out of the routine of indifference, of violence, of domination, be kind to another. There are two stories I heard years ago from our neighbors, from two different neighbors. And I heard them once, and they stayed with me. And perhaps they'll stay with you. One, from Ian Sobieski, one of our neighbors. His family was living in Poland during World War II. And something I just learned today, a part of the story that I didn't know, was that as the border was, I can't pronounce the name of the city right, Lvov, but that city used to be in Poland, and that's where they were living. And so in World War II, when the borders were starting to shift and there was occupation, his family had actually had fled the Germans, the Nazis, and then were being attacked by the Russians. And so his family had to make the decision, where are we going to end up here? Are we going to live under occupied, under German occupation or under Russian occupation? As he said, it was like a devil's choice, and they actually chose German occupation that's where the family fled to. And many more stories than I can do justice here right now, but one of the stories was actually post-war, because of course, as we see the carnage now, we know that the only, the most striking result after the war is the devastation and the destruction. And so in the post-war period, this is stories from the post-war period, Ian told me about his father who would, because food and everything was so short, his father would ride a motorcycle a couple miles into the country to buy one egg and bring it back. And for Ian's sister, who was 10 years older than him, because she was the most medically fragile. She was the one who needed the most hoisting up. And Tisha Hanuman, who is also a neighbor here in Sausalito, she was living in Holland when the Nazis invaded. Her mother had 6 children. One of the things they did was that they would provide safe passage for Jewish children. They would stay with her family until the next part of their escape journey was put into place. And it's really sweet because she said, there were 6 kids in my family. So if there are a couple more running around in the yard and in the house, no one was really able to count and say, oh, somebody is there who shouldn't belong. Her mom had, one day the Nazis came into the town and they confiscated everyone's bicycles. This was the only way people had to get around. And her mom with 6 kids was not going to be able to make it through without her bicycle. And so she ran down to the town square where all the bicycles from the village had been collected and where a lone Nazi soldier with a rifle stood guard. And she went up to that guard, that soldier, and she said, I have 6 kids. I have to have my bicycle. I need it. And she was able to touch him enough that he said, okay, you can take it. But if another one of my soldiers comes, I have to shoot you. Well, she biked home very fast, and she survived. When I talk to Ian and when I talk to Tisha, it's stunning because they're just two of the very, very few people I've ever met where I feel like I can almost touch World War II. I can almost touch that level of suffering and that level of destruction and that level of despair and that level of hate, human hatred against humans. And they're still here. They're here. They're here. Ian and Tisha are here. And their siblings. And Tisha's children and grandchildren are here. And while many have been lost, others will be here. Others will be here, and their children will be here, and their grandchildren will be here, and their great-grandchildren will be here. Each one of us, somehow, our ancestors, going through all time when life was definitely a lot harder, were able to make it enough that here, tens of thousands of years after we started walking upright, we're here. And that gives me hope. Because there are people who probably didn't understand what precisely peace meant either, but who have now touched what it's not. And as all my Vietnam veteran friends have taught me, they love peace more than most anybody else I know. And so tonight, our hearts break. And tonight we remember the people of the Ukraine and all those who are suffering at the war. And tonight, let us ask ourselves, what do we know about peace? And let us ask ourselves, are we peacemakers? Because right now, we're not in a great war. But I'll tell you, I often lose the peace on the 101. We all know that. I lose the peace. Where do you lose the peace? Maybe it's someone, I used to live in New York City. I got so mad at people who walked slow on Fifth Avenue. I had to go to work. Why are you walking so slow? Where do you lose the peace? Because really, when it comes down to it, each one of us can make peace every day. It might be with a strained familial relationship. It might be with a difficult neighbor. It might be with an unfair boss or an incompetent subordinate. But everywhere we go, in every conversation we have, every word we utter, we can be making peace. Or not. But let's make peace. I'd like to invite you, I don't know, some of you might be familiar with this song, but the words are in your bulletin, and it's called "This Is My Song." And it was written by...
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. Other hearts in other lands are beating, with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country skies are bluer than the oceans, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and vine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. So hear my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. This is my prayer, O Lord of all mercy comes. Thy kingdom come, on earth thy will be done. Lift us all up to love each other fully, and hearts unite and learn to live as one. So hear my prayer, O God of all the nations. Myself I give thee, let thy will be done.
So may we know the hope that is not just for someday, but for this day, here, now, in this moment that opens us, that opens to us. Hope not made of wishes, but of substance. Hope made of sinew and muscle and bone. Hope that has breath and a beating heart. Hope that will not keep quiet and be polite. Hope that knows how to holler when it is called for. Hope that knows how to sing when there seems little cause. Hope that raises us from the dead, not someday, but this day, every day, again and again and again. We'd like to now gather everyone in a circle. We're going to pass some light together here. So if everyone would just, we'll kind of put the circle through one of these lines of pews. You don't have to hold hands, but we just want to make it a circle. And we're going to pass out some candles here. Yeah. Oh, it's a. Right. So we're going to make an oblong. I missed geometry in high school. I just had algebra. But again, this is working pretty good. And Dawn is actually going to play the ukulele. And the words, if for those of you who are ambidextrous, we're going to pass the light and sing Imagine by John Lennon. Some of you might already know the words. Oh. Yeah, sorry. So let me just tell you one thing about, actually, hey, Joe, can you lower some of the lights? If you have a minute. So let me tell you about when we pass light from one candle to the other. If my candle is lit, it never dips. So once I will light my candle, and then Julie will light hers from mine. And then Tamara will light hers. Okay? So don't get the lit.
Can you unmute those channels?
The words are there so you can sing along.
It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. If you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Here we go. imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will take us.
In the Talmud, there's a story. Someone comes to a rabbi and he says, when is it night? When is the night completely fallen? And the rabbi says, when it's so dark that you cannot see that the person next to you is your neighbor, is your friend. It gets really dark. And I know for some of us, even in this beautiful setting and with all the gifts we have, it gets pretty dark. I wanted to invite you to look around at each other in the soft, warm glow of the candlelight. It kind of softens us, you know? And my prayer tonight is that wherever you go, may you see everyone's face in the soft glow of the candlelight. That no matter how dark it gets, there'll still be an ember. You can still see they're a friend. I want to invite, if anyone has a person or a people or something on their minds who they just want to give voice to remember here in this circle with all of us to give witness to. If you want anybody living or dead, but just who's in your heart and on your mind right now, I invite you to call them out. And we'll just all hear it and hold it, and love it with you. Hold it. And all the people in your heart, all the people who loved you into being, and all the people who are in darkness tonight, for all the people who might be in darkness for a long time. Imagine all of them. We're just going to wrap up here with a couple blessings.
May the one whose spirit is with us every night be with all who work for the good and bear the burdens of others, and give bread to hope, and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure. May the seed and sow bring life.
Oh, now in peace, never be afraid.
Life is short, and we haven't much time to gladden the hearts of those who journey the way with us. So be swift to love, and make haste to be kind. And remember always, go in peace. And now we're going to blow out our candles, but we will not extinguish the light. And we will go out into the night, but not into the darkness. Let the love of this light, the love in your hearts, and the love of the time we have here together go with you and light your way in this night.